The story goes something like this. The actor, frustrated that they are not sure how a moment in a scene should be played, asks the director, "So what's my motivation?" To which the director replies, "Your paycheck." Making a decision about how to motivate yourself in an acting career is no different. If you decide to always question your choices, then you might find yourself stuck with no forward movement. Sometimes the best choices are the ones that do not require conditions attached, but ones that just make sense for you in the moment. Motivation in a scene or in your career. Let's find out how to make the best choices. All happening in this episode of Casting Actors Cast.
It's time for another episode of Casting Actors Cast, insights for actors from a casting director. Here he is, your host, Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Well, hello. And welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm casting partner Jeff Dreisbach with the McCorkle Group in New York. How are you? So nice that you are here today. I'm really excited about today's episode. We're going to talk about motivation, whether it's in a scene and you're acting, what that really means, to being motivated in your acting career. This has been a challenging time for a lot of us, so I thought it might be a good idea just to share some of those tips and suggestions to kind of get you moving off that place that kind of feels like, drudgery, kind of dragging you down. So we're going to change all that. Special shout out to my friends from the A1 conference taking place at Rider University a few weeks ago. I had the pleasure of being a guest speaker and teaching several classes at the A1 conference. And the A1 conference is made up of schools all across the country, colleges and university training school programs. And they meet at Rider University for a 4-day conference. And you know what? I just had the best time. And I taught a section called From Stage to Screen. And it was really interesting having all those university students because there were some truths about being a university student, right? The training is really great at so many colleges and universities. But then maybe you have only just, as we say, a smidge of film and television work experience in the training program. So I was there to help sort of facilitate the gap between, having this wonderful theater training and wanting to go into film and television. So it was a really exciting conference. And I have to say, with the exception of only one class out of 7, it was kind of standing room only. So it was really, really exciting. And for those of you who were at the conference who are now tuning into the podcast, gosh, thank you so much. It's really great that you're aboard and welcome. And to the rest of you, I couldn't be more excited to tell you that we're up to 65,000 downloads of the podcast. It's very, very exciting. And if this is your first time tuning into Casting Actors Cast, welcome. This is a really cool place where I do my very, very best to give tips, hints, and suggestions on everything from acting stuff to career choices and motivational stuff. So I try to throw as much as I can in there. My entire desire, I didn't mean to rhyme just there. My entire idea is to simply give back those things that I got when I got my BFA degree and was a professional actor. I made my living for over 20 years. Now, over 12 years as a casting director, I'm able to give back all kinds of really cool information. And my whole motivation, speaking of motivation, is to simply grow and develop a community of like-minded folks, of talented actors, staying creative and getting as much information as we can possibly throw in. So it's really great that you are here. Hey, listen, if you haven't done so already, just, I've gotten so many nice reviews and comments. If you could leave a review on iTunes, for example, if you could let other folks know about the podcast, if you could do a thumbs up or a like. We're also simulcasting these on YouTube. And so these podios, I hope to grow. I hope that people are enjoying watching me do the podcast. So I appreciate that so much. By the way, if you go to the website, castingactorscast.com, that's casting castingactorscast, all one word.com, you're going to find a form that says dive into the talent pool. And all that means is that you just give me your name and your email address. I don't do anything with that, by the way. I kind of hang on to it. Every great once in a while, I might send out an email talking about a particular episode coming up or something like that. But I'm not in the business of spamming anybody. I'm not here to kind of suck up your bandwidth. So please just fill out that form. But guess what? If you do that, it's going to open up another page where you can download a free book. That's right, absolutely free. It's a 100-page book on voiceover work called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the voiceover workshop for professional actors. And it's free. It's a PDF. You can read it. You can print it out. You can do whatever you want with it. But it's a really cool workshop in a manual format, really. I used to teach voiceovers all the time and voiceover workshops all the time. I just love teaching so much. So I decided to put it together in a book. And I'm happy to say that several colleges and universities are actually using this book in their professional training. And I'm giving it to you free of charge. Also, there's a free video also on that same page, just filling out that form that says dive into the talent pool, and that'll open up a free video. And the video is called Casting Secrets, What They Don't Want You to Know. But guess what? In this 20-minute exclusive video, you can only get it at that place. I'm going to explain exactly the answer to that question. So I think you might have some fun with that. All right, is that all the business? Yeah, that's all the business. Oh, here's a quick shout out. Here's a shout out to my good friends at Actors Connection. Guess what? All of their classes are online. Yeah, you can take all kinds of workshops, intensives, all from industry professionals. So hello to my friends at Actors Connection. You got to check them out. All right, let's get to the subject at hand, shall we? So what's my motivation? It's a kind of a simple question sometimes. And motivation speaks to you as an actor when you need to know what is the character's inner life all about and why is the character behaving the way that they are. So there are acting choices out there that you can make when you're working on your acting, whether it's doing a scene, whether you're in a play, or whether you're studying a script for any reason at all. The best choices that you can make for yourself and discovering what that motivation is really just simply connecting the character to your own life experience. I know that sounds kind of simple, doesn't it? But it's really true. The uniqueness that is you is something that you absolutely must bring into the work. Why? Because that inherently increases its uniqueness. So the more of you that we see in that role, the more unique it is. The more unique it is, the special qualities that make you also contribute to the character. And so if you don't know what your motivation is, ask yourself, well, what would I do in this situation? And pretty much you're going to find some really amazing answers. So simply being in touch with who you are. And you know what? I think it's interesting to say that because a lot of times actors are much more comfortable in playing somebody other than themselves. And that's fair. I mean, that's part of the training of an actor, isn't it? On the other hand, if you can tap into those unique, special qualities that make you unique and special, then by all means, that gives the character an additional life. It's also a very solid grounding device for your character and the situation that they find themselves in their character. Here's another point, I think, about finding your uniqueness, but your motivation as an actor is also relating to the other characters. The more that you can relate to another character in a scene, by listening, for example. In fact, I'll go so far as to say, and I teach this all the time, and it's always interesting to me, and I tell the actor, the more you can invest in having empathy for the other person in the scene, even if it's a combative relationship or like it's an argument or something bad going on, the more that you can invest in listening, processing that information, and reacting, the more you can invest in the other, only makes your acting better. I promise you it's true. It's kind of weird because you think that that's not true. You think, oh, well, no, this is about me and my circumstance. Well, you know what? There's another person in the room. And having that empathetic connection to the other character is really an amazing way by which you can get out of your own head, number one. And number two, your character behaves in a way that seems more truthful to the scene because you're relating so much to the other. The other thing I want to share with you about that kind of what's my motivation question is to embrace being spontaneous in any scene or any acting work that you do. I know that sometimes is hard because you can't plan on spontaneity. You can't say, oh, I'm going to do this because it'll be spontaneous. No, that's not, that's not spontaneous. What I'm talking about is just deciding that you're going to do the work that you need to do to accomplish whatever you need to accomplish in your scene. But then know the work well enough so that you can just treat any acting moments in anything that you're doing, whether it's film, television, or theater. You can decide that you will be open to whatever happens. In other words, if you can treat those acting moments like the best rehearsal you ever had, where you're trying something out, let's just try something, let's just see what fits. You know what? That's an amazing thing that then happens. So you don't want to pre-plan how a scene should go, but going into every scene with the idea that, you know what, let's just see what happens. Now, I know that that's hard because actors, we're also kind of control freaks sometimes. We want to know exactly what the process is. I'm asking you to pull away from that sort of rigid way of looking at your acting work and decide that spontaneity is something that is absolutely welcome. Why? It speaks to your uniqueness. It also speaks to your confidence as an actor. So now we've talked a lot about actor motivation. So when you're working on a scene, whether it's for film or television or theater or a class, whatever it is, wherever it is, you might want to think about those three things. You might just want to think about the other in the scene. You might just want to think about being spontaneous in the scene. And of course, you might just decide that you are unique. You are enough in any scene that you're doing. But you know what? We can transition this conversation a little bit now and talk about acting career choices that make sense. So not acting choices, but acting career choices that make sense. What have you been doing lately for your acting career? Now, I know it's hard. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. This is that time of the year, into late January, early February, where we're coming into those New Year's resolutions. And about 70% of us now have completely stopped our resolve. We've completely stopped our resolutions. Yes, I'm going to not drink for 1 year, and you had a cocktail yesterday. Or I'm going to exercise 6 days a week, and now it's been 3 days since you've exercised. I don't want you to beat yourself up for anything. It's really okay. We make resolutions. We really hope for the best, and ultimately 70% of the time we are able to sort of not, follow through the way we want to. I guess the thing I'm trying to say is you can't beat yourself up for that. It's a very normal human thing. But let me just talk to you about acting career choices. It's especially difficult now because of COVID. Theater is still shut down pretty much, although the film work is still going on, and I'm excited and happy about the 6 films that we're currently casting, for example. But here's a couple of suggestions I want to make. Just as I made suggestions for your acting, let me make a couple of suggestions for your acting career. Number 1, I need you to make a plan of action. Literally making a list, a plan of action. What would you like to do in the next week, the next month, the next year? What would be the right best next thing for you. Now, you can be realistic if you want. You say, oh, I'm going to sign up for this class this week. I'm going to make sure that I get into a really good acting class this week. I'm going to make sure that I make contact with 5 agents that I've been interested in wanting to work with this month. Whatever it is, it simply make a plan of action. And that literally means writing it down. Just write it down. And it can be the dream gig that you want. You can be the career that you want a year from now. It doesn't matter. But a plan of action is more than just speculation. It really means the steps that you think are the logical next right thing for you in your career. Step number 2 is decide on goals that are right for you today. Sometimes we make these huge resolutions or these sweeping gestures. Oh, I have to have find an agent. That's my goal this year. But now, what can you do today? So when you decide on the goals, make sure that there are goals that you can begin to implement today. So it's just a little thing, but you can say, oh, I think this is a good day. Maybe I should put that list together. This is a good day that maybe I should do some research on some new material or some new monologues that I'd like to work on. Maybe this would be a good day that I carve out today. I'm going to carve out a little time and look at the job opportunities that are there on Backstage.com. Or I'm going to spend an extra 15 minutes on Actors Access just to see what additional information I can find. Or, hey, I know, why don't I read The Hollywood Reporter today and make that a regular habit? Small attainable goals are just the beginning, but they reinforce each other in such a great way that over time, you're going to see that that plan of action is starting to bubble up, is starting to come alive. Number 3, refrain from overthinking those choices as you move forward. You see, I know psychology well enough to know that we set ourselves up, we start it, and then something happens, something changes, we get frustrated, it doesn't turn out the way we want, we get distracted. Life gets in the way, guys. You know, that's just kind of normal. That just happens. But if you start overthinking the choices that you're making, then you've lost some of that spontaneity in your career in the same way that you lose spontaneity when you are acting. See how I did just there? You see how I tie that in together? So what that means is that there are 3 ways I think that you can stay motivated with your acting and with your acting career. So these are 3 ways that you can stay motivated with your acting as well as your acting career. Now, this is something I did when I was a young actor, and I acted for 20 years. I decided somewhere in there, maybe in year 4 or 5 as an actor, that I needed to do 3 things a day toward my career. 3 things. That's all I did. If I could do 3 things a day for my career, I felt like I was a winner. So one of those things wasn't calling my agent, and that's one on the list. That wasn't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about 3 very clear, distinct things that I can do that help grow my career. For example, I remember one thing I did, and I stuck to it, was I went to the library and I read a play. I decided every day I'm going to read a new play. And at that time, you could go to the Lincoln Center Library, and you could even check out Broadway shows, for example, that they let you watch the filmed version of the Broadway show for free. Hello. Or I would go to the drama bookshop and I'd pull out a script. Well, you can do that online now. But that was one thing I wanted to do, was I just wanted to increase the literature. I wanted to increase my reading. I wanted to get better at finding out what kinds of plays were being written. And so the current works that were being put out there was something I really wanted to invest in. So that was one thing. The second thing is I started to work out. I did. I started to just, okay, I've got to kind of take care of myself physically. Now, in those days, I was drinking a lot. I was not taking care of myself in the best way. And so I just decided that I was going to try and make a regular habit of getting some good, solid exercise. Now, I'm not talking about going to the gym and, bulking up or anything like that, but I just wanted to feel better. I wanted to feel more healthy. So that was thing number 2. Thing number 3, I needed to connect with somebody in the business, somebody hopefully who was in the same place I was in terms of their career, or maybe I could connect with somebody who was doing really, really well. So a friend, somebody that I had worked with in the past, making and reaching out to somebody that I was familiar with, or even asking one of my friends to introduce me to somebody that they worked with. I know it sounds crazy and it sounds weird, and I promise you I wasn't perfect at this. But when I could do those 3 things a day, I literally felt as if my career was on a more positive and forward trajectory. So that's 3 ways to stay motivated. Way number 1, just to have the 3 things a day rule. That's all you need to do. Here's number 2. This is going to be interesting for you to hear this, I think. So just listen to what I have to say. Don't don't decide how you're going to react, but decide that you are exactly where you need to be for today. Now, I know that sort of flies in the face of doing 3 things a day, but where you are now is exactly where you need to be. And so putting undue stress or undue pressure on yourself, or finding things that you can disappoint yourself in, is not what I'm talking about. That because of external circumstances, because of your own, navigating the world as you see it today, you just have to give yourself a break. You need to decide that you are right where you need to be. It's only when you accept that and embrace that reality are you able to then go to that first step, which is those 3 things. I promise you it works that way. Number 3, I want you to lose fear. We're all afraid. That's the big secret to show business, is that we're all afraid on some level. But you know what? Anytime I hear the word fear, I think of the acronym: false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. Fear is sometimes a great motivator to avoid progress. Sometimes fear is a great motivator to change course. But more often than not, our fear is very unfounded. It is not based in reality. We create a lot of our own fear sometimes. Being motivated is often just a challenge. And rather than rise up to the challenge, we decide to be fearful. We decide to move forward only when all the right conditions are met. And sometimes we let fear keep us from embracing those conditions. Changing our outlook means that we might need to just stop rationalizing and just simply start with a plan. And guess what? Plans change. That's okay. Remember that your motivation might be just as simple as, getting a paycheck. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach, and this is Casting Actors Cast.
Thank you for joining Casting Actors Cast. Please don't forget to review, like, and share Casting Actors Cast wherever you get your podcast videos. Thanks. I'm Megan Grace Martinez.